4 feet 11 inches to 5 feet 2 inches. If your height falls between 4 feet 11 inches and 5 feet 2 inches, your body is running one of the most fuel-efficient biological systems on the planet. This isn't a limitation, it's a structural edge. Your body requires fewer calories to maintain core functions like circulation and temperature regulation. In environments where food is scarce, this efficiency is the difference between surviving and failing, which is exactly why populations across Southeast Asia and Central America evolved toward this stature. Your resting metabolic rate is roughly 15 to 20% lower than taller bodies performing the same activity because you have less tissue to oxygenate. Then there is heat management. Think of your body like a radiator. Your high surface area to mass ratio allows you to release heat faster than larger frames. In extreme temperatures, you cool down with mechanical precision. This carries over into performance. Ariana Grande stands at 5 feet and 0 inches and outlasts performers a foot taller. Simone Biles, the most decorated gymnast in history, uses her compact frame to generate a lower moment of inertia, less resistance to rotation, faster spins, and more precise landings. Her dominance isn't a coincidence, it's physics. 5 feet 3 inches to 5 feet 6 inches. If your height falls between 5 feet 3 inches and 5 feet 6 inches, your cardiovascular system carries a direct structural advantage. Your heart pumps blood through a shorter arterial pathway than taller frames require. Less distance means less resistance, and less resistance is lower pressure demanded from the left ventricle with every contraction. Across roughly 100,000 heartbeats per day, that reduced mechanical load compounds over decades into a measurable difference in long-term cardiac health. Large-scale population studies consistently link this height range to lower rates of hypertension and coronary artery disease, independently of diet and exercise. The advantage is structural, not just behavioral. Two of the world's highest concentrations of centenarians, Okinawa, Japan, and Sardinia, Italy, are home to populations whose average adult height falls squarely in this range. Researchers studying these blue zone communities have identified cardiovascular efficiency as one of the key biological factors behind their extraordinary longevity rates. Bruno Mars stands at 5 feet 5 inches and has sustained peak physical and vocal output on the world's largest stages for over a decade. His body isn't fighting its own circulatory system to do it. Neither is yours. 5 feet 7 inches to 5 feet 9 inches. The range between 5 feet 7 inches and 5 feet 9 inches carries the lowest all-cause mortality of any height bracket. Multiple independent population studies confirm this, not in one disease category, but across nearly every measured cause of death. Part of the reason is cell count. Every division carries a real probability of a copying error. The origin of cancer. A person at 6 feet 3 has roughly 20% more cells than you, meaning more division cycles and a statistically higher cancer risk. Your lower cell count is built-in protection. Your center of gravity sits lower, giving you superior balance and faster directional change. Your limb-to-torso proportions sit inside the optimal zone for explosive movement, real force without sacrificing agility. Tom Cruise stands at 5 feet 7 inches. 4 decades of the most physically demanding action in Hollywood, real jumps, real speed, real output. Bruce Lee also stood 5 feet 7 inches. His force-to-body size ratio remains one of the most studied in sports biomechanics. 2 eras, 1 bracket, both proving exactly what this height does. 5 feet 10 inches to 6 feet. If you stand between 5 feet 10 inches and 6 feet, your height falls within what evolutionary biologists classify as the optimal generalist range, a band occupied by approximately 14.5% of the global male population and consistently overrepresented among the world's highest-performing athletes and military combatants. Your legs cover more ground per step, your arms reach further, your cardiovascular system runs efficiently, and your joints handle load without severe wear. You are not the fastest or the strongest, but competitive across nearly every category at once. Research also shows taller candidates receive more votes and get promoted faster. Effects that are neurological, not cultural. Brad Pitt at 5 feet 11 inches and Chris Evans at 6 feet built careers on total physical credibility, strength, coordination, and presence. Neither depends on extreme size. That is what this height delivers: 6 feet 1 inch to 6 feet 3 inches. If your height falls between 6 feet 1 inch and 6 feet 3 inches, your skeleton operates as a mechanical system that shorter frames cannot replicate at the same muscle mass. An 18-inch forearm generates greater rotational force at the point of output than a 14-inch forearm producing an identical muscular contraction, because the same force applied at a greater distance from the joint produces more torque. Biomechanists call this segmental leverage advantage, and it scales across every movement your body produces: every throw, strike, press, and pull. This is exactly why elite quarterbacks, power pitchers, and dominant forwards cluster between 6 feet 1 inch and 6 feet 4 inches. Beyond athletics, behavioral research shows that this height range triggers subconscious authority assessments in others before a word is spoken, influencing hiring outcomes, leadership perception, and social dynamics in ways that operate entirely below conscious awareness. Barack Obama at 6 feet 1 inch commands every room before a word is spoken. Arnold Schwarzenegger at 6 feet 2 inches built the most dominant bodybuilding career in history, then carried that presence into stardom and political office. Same bracket, same result. Authority before any action. 6 feet 4 inches to 6 feet 6 inches. At 6 feet 4 inches to 6 feet 6 inches, your body enters the range evolutionary biology directly links to cold climate survival engineering and peak mechanical force output. In 1847, Carl Bergman described a pattern observed across warm-blooded species. Body mass increases systematically in populations that evolved under colder thermal conditions. The physics are precise. Heat loss occurs through surface area while heat production scales with volume. Larger bodies carry a more favorable surface area to volume ratio, meaning they retain core temperature more efficiently under sustained cold exposure. Northern European and Arctic populations trend toward this height range because cold environments ran a centuries-long natural selection filter that eliminated smaller frames over successive generations. At the mechanical level, your longer bones generate greater moment arms, the lever distances that determine rotational force output at every joint. That advantage scales across every major movement pattern your body executes. Abraham Lincoln stood 6 feet 4 inches, and historians consistently note that his physical presence commanded rooms before he spoke. Tom Brady stands 6 feet 4 inches and executed the most precise and sustained peak performance in NFL history across 2 decades. His frame providing the postural stability, throwing leverage, and spatial awareness that shorter quarterbacks structurally cannot replicate at the same level. Same bracket, same outcome. Total dominance of their environment. 6 feet 7 inches or more. Above 6 feet 7 inches, your body exists at the outer boundary of human biological scaling. Globally, only approximately 0.000014% of the population reaches this range. Your spatial dominance at this height is not psychological. It is neurological. Studies in social neuroscience have shown that postural height activates dominance-related neural circuits in observers within 200 milliseconds of visual contact. People around you are not choosing to respond differently. Their nervous systems are doing it automatically, the way they were shaped over hundreds of thousands of years of size-based threat evaluation. At the mechanical level, your moment arms, the perpendicular distances between your joint axes and your lines of applied force, are longer than those of approximately 99.99% of the humans you will ever encounter. Torque output scales linearly with moment arm length at identical muscular force, meaning your absolute force output ceiling is structurally elevated beyond what training alone can produce in shorter frames. That advantage is encoded in your skeleton, not your conditioning. LeBron James stands at 6 feet 9 inches, the NBA's all-time leading scorer. Shaquille O'Neal stands at 7 feet 1 inch and remains one of the most physically dominant athletes in history. At this height and in the right environment, your body produces something no other bracket can match: